Hey everyone, I am joined by Amanda Ivicic, who is the new Chief Experience Officer here at the Loudoun Credit Union. Hey Amanda, how are you doing?
Good. How are you, Brian?
Good.
I'm
So,
excited to be here today.
well, thank you. And we are in the community room
Yes.
at the new location on, at 6 West Market Street in
Mhm.
downtown Leesburg. Let's start with that. What's kind of the story behind the community room?
Well, I will say that, we've been around Loudoun Credit Union for almost 50 years. Started downtown Leesburg.
Mhm.
So
Not
we
too far
left,
from here.
yeah, left, came back. I believe we left again,
Mhm.
came back, and we're finally really back home. So
Right.
when you go back home, it's kind of this tribute, right, to our community, creating a space where we can welcome people into our building in a way that's it's meaningful to
Mhm.
them. It's really hard, especially look at nonprofits and small businesses, having a place where people can gather for things like we just had one of the small businesses in last week that
Right.
was hosting a crafting workshop. So it was a lot. It was fun. They came in, they love the natural light. It's pretty, it's awesome. We're going to have some LCPS artwork in here. We're going to have, board meetings, just a bunch of different. We had the flower and garden show. That was a blast. We partnered with our neighbors and were able to host a community garden painting. That's a lot of fun. So it's exciting.
And you guys are, one building off of King Street. So
Exactly.
You've got parades, you've got First Friday,
Yep.
you've got festivals.
Yeah, which I'm excited. We're going to host our First Friday in here on June 5th. And we've got a local jewelry maker that is well known in downtown Leesburg, and she's going to be here with all of her stuff. So I'm excited about that.
Amazing. One of the things that I think is fun is I get a chance to come in and meet with you pretty often. And when we're in here, I usually see somebody I know just walking by with these big glass windows over here with the natural light. And folks are looking in and they'll wave and knock. And it's kind of fun to just be in the best possible way in a fishbowl here.
It kind of reminds me of, when you host an event and you naturally gather around the kitchen table, right? And you have those conversations and there's just that opportunity to gather to organically have this really, it's a fun conversation. It's talking with your neighbors. In the case from you at your kitchen table, you're talking with your guests. But there's just something about having a space for people to gather that really, it helps us root ourselves downtown in a way it's meaningful, it's organic, it's not forced. It's just, we're creating space to have the community come together.
Right. Exactly right. And before we started recording, you had to take a quick break to go give somebody a hug.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
Yeah, we had two
Yeah.
people. Yeah, and I love that.
Yeah.
It's always our Michael when he's in here. He's like, I love working in here because that specific reason. And I think that really goes back to when you are a credit union. It's the credit union way.
Mhm.
We are a not-for-profit financial cooperative here to help people. And
Right.
the biggest part of what we do is the people. So why not create that space where we can do that with people?
Right.
I know I said people like 3 times there, but really it goes back to, it is about that community. It is about what we do, not what we get out of the community, but what we get back.
Exactly. And, I think as compared to banking and things like that credit unions are the membership model and that people are at the center of everything that we do. So, you're embedded in their lives. And that I think speaks a lot to the role that you're playing here with experience. Experience sounds like it's pretty open-ended.
It is. It's true, but
Right.
it's anywhere from when you walk in. How do you feel when you walk into our building? What's your experience from the fun antique table that we currently have in there to the Werthers that are in the jar to the friendly faces of our tellers and to the fun branding in our new logo wear, all of that. What is the experience of the member? And that's something, it's not just external, it's also internal.
Right.
It's us being able to have this space.
I can tell you that my kids love coming in here. I think it's the Werthers and the lollipops, but
I have to say that's a big part of it. We actually, our members, it's funny, somebody came in and said, I love that you have Werthers. And I think, it's small things like that. They remind me of my grandmother.
Yeah.
They remind me of a really just a time in do you remember when you were a kid, like,
Yeah, of
grandparents having that bowl
course.
of candy and the
Right.
Werthers? And it's something about that, like, it brings you back, right?
Mhm.
So it's all those little tiny things about the experience when you walk in that are important. They're important in the sales industry as a whole, but really and truly as a credit union, like, how we create that space that's welcoming for our members.
Absolutely, yeah. So let's talk a little bit about your story and kind of what got you here. One of the things that I find so interesting about Loudoun County, and this is true for me, I know it's true for you, is that there's a lot of people who chose to be here, that come from outside of the area, of course. I think particularly among our membership, there's a lot of folks who have been here for a very long time. But
Mhm.
Loudoun is sort of special in that for a decade or more, it was one of the fastest growing counties in the country.
Yeah.
So there is, I think particularly in our generation, a lot of folks who found opportunity here. So where'd you come from and how'd you get here?
Oh man, that's a fun story. So I originally from Florida, born
Hmm.
and raised in South Florida. The last place I was in Florida was just outside of Orlando.
Fun.
Came up here for my ex-husband's job to go federal. Stayed here, was in the Lake Ridge area, but when I got together with my now husband, we wanted a place that was going to be good for both of our kids. That
Hmm.
was going to be we're able to that's affordable, has good schools, really has this sort of suburban feel. Him and I both grew up in the suburbs. So one of the things that I love about Loudoun is that you could be in the country, but also in the city and suburbs at the same time
Yeah.
with a beautiful view of the mountains. So that brought us to Aldie, Virginia
Hmm.
in 2022. So I've been here next month will be exactly 4 years,
Wow.
going on our fifth year. And we just bought a year ago. Actually, a year ago tomorrow, we closed on our townhome.
That's amazing.
And so I love Loudoun. I've spent now more time in Loudoun than I have in the others
Hmm.
since I've been up here. And there's something unique about Loudoun because it's small but still big at the same time. You've got constant growing businesses. You've got LCPS, which is, top 10 in the entire nation. You've got just a unique pool of people. Like people think who move out here and you're moving out to the middle of nowhere. You're really not because the amount of culture here is just, it's awesome. It's fantastic. It's a
Yes.
melting pot.
Right. And especially right here in downtown Leesburg, there's, it's they've done an incredible job with making it walkable, with bringing in such a reflection of the community in terms of the
Yes.
businesses that are here and, the nonprofits that serve this area. And it's very cool to me the way that the businesses collaborate with, some of the West Market Street
Yes.
collectives, the King
Mhm.
Street collectives. And it's just a bunch of these businesses that, really care and really work together well. And I think it's so cool that the credit union gets to be embedded right in the
Like
middle.
we're like in it.
Yeah.
We're right in it. Like if you sit in I really feel like from anywhere in this building, if you look out a window, you see everything.
Mm.
You see all of the beautiful buildings that have been here for hundreds of years. You
Yeah.
see all of the people walking by. Some of our employees actually love sitting in this room too because the people watching
It is
because
fun.
they're jammed. They're like, yeah, this is fun.
It's fun. You get a sort of a 10-second view in someone's life as
Yeah.
they are taking it in whatever form that is. They might be on the phone. They might be, they might be coming out of the bar.
Mm-hmm.
You never know.
Exactly. And I definitely do count my blessings. I feel very fortunate that I ended up within Northern Virginia in Loudoun County just because of how much it has to offer. And, we tell our kids all the time, you're in one of the best counties
It's true.
in the entire nation.
Yeah.
You kind of wear it as a badge of honor, right?
Right. Right.
Yeah.
No, and it is amazing the ways that, like, objectively, Loudoun County is really a leader in that. We're seeing FEMA puts out like a list of like the safest counties from natural
Mhm.
disasters and stuff. So like, and Loudoun County is literally number one in the country.
I didn't even realize that.
Yeah.
That's fantastic.
Well, if you think about it, I mean, despite the heat, despite the cold, sometimes like last winter, we don't get hurricanes much. We don't get earthquakes. We
And,
don't get a
being
lot of
from
those
Florida,
things.
I'm really happy we do.
No alligators.
No alligators, no hurricanes.
That's right. That's right. So I think, mm, I don't think it's surprising that people, DC is a little bit of a transient area, but I don't think it's surprising that people come through here and then stay.
Yeah.
Maybe your job brings you here, maybe luck or school or anything else. But yeah, there's a lot of good reasons to put down roots here.
There are. Getting to be a part of that as a financial organization, it really is a privilege when you think about it. Because you think about somebody's, their overall wellness and their happiness in life. One of the biggest things is finances.
Hmm.
They do say that finances tends to, in relationships, be one of the biggest hot topics. So getting to be that resource for families, getting to, in the near future, be that resource for business is really a privilege that we get to be a part of people's lives in that way.
Yeah, I mean, this is, mental health, physical health, finances are the number one driver of those things. And it can be so stressful, I think, particularly in uncertain environments. So to have a partner like that has to be.
And that's why, we want to be intentional about the products that we create and how we continue to grow, because serving our members
Mhm,
that have, I mean, we have members that have been, because like I said at the beginning, we've been around almost 50 years.
mhm.
We have members that were here from the beginning.
Right.
And they work for the county and they've seen this county grow. They are part of it. They live here, they work here, they worship here, they have kids in the system here.
Mhm.
Like it is, and getting to create those products and services around them to help them. I mean, that's the goal.
Right.
But also then to have that pipeline of growth, right? Because we've got kids coming out of school and choosing to stay here and go to college, and they're going to get jobs, and how can we help them? So how can we effectively help who we have now, but also create that pipeline for the future?
Absolutely. Yeah. So going back to just, experience and kind of what that role
Yeah.
looks like, you basically rolled on as this place was opening its first downtown retail location in
Mhm.
12 years or whatever it was. What was that experience like coming in to something where there are literally, not even pictures on the wall yet, but a vision for what this can be? And what are some of the things that you've been able to shape so far that have been exciting?
I, that's a loaded question because it's exciting. I came from a larger financial institution, and it reminded me of back when I started my business with event planning. And
Hmm.
when you help small businesses and you help them from scratch, I think one of the things that I've been able to do in coming here is just looking at how we can approach sales in a sales for service kind of way. So one of the things is, and I did a LinkedIn post on this because it was, even my thought with sales was very like used car salesman. Like, I'm coming after you. I'm going to give you something you don't need. And it took years to get past that word and really not have a visceral reaction. And I think that to a certain point, just really shifting that thought process, that sales is not me selling you, you need to get this credit card because I need to make these goals. It was, hey, you've been with us for 10 years. You have your direct deposit here. I noticed that you have a lot of money just sitting here in your savings. Have you thought about one of our CDs?
Right.
I noticed that you were just talking about your kids and they need braces. Have you thought about, we can help you on the loan side? It's really, how do we see opportunities to help people? So how do we sell as a way to serve?
Right.
And I think, one of the things that differentiates, and I can say this because most people know within credit unions versus banks, is we are member owned and we're not for profit. So at the end of the day, our goal isn't to make a buck. Our goal is, how do we use the bucks that we have to serve our members? And I think that, when you talk about us wanting to grow, it's how do we grow in a way that we scale our growth to serve our members.
Right.
So how do we say, okay, well, the small businesses, they're going to need this. Our members are going to need this now. It's shifting that mindset from I'm selling as a used car salesperson to no, sales really is a service to our members. And I think it's part of the member experience. And really, if you look at it, I had a manager one time tell me like communication is sales. When you communicate, you're selling.
Right.
When you talk about your friend's products and services, or maybe a business that they own, like when I talk about you owning Pounds and I'm like, yeah, Brian's awesome and he does this for us and he does that for us, that's selling. But it's in a way that I found an opportunity with a person who might need that.
Yeah.
And that's been a fun shift. Also, upgrading some of our products and services. I think one of the things that I personally feel really privileged to do, and it's been huge growth for me in my career is looking into what systems do we currently have
Hmm.
and how can we make them efficient, not just from the member side, but from our employee side.
Right.
Like, think about it. I think you and I the other day, we were looking at one of our systems, and there were so many steps to it. And we're working on making it one step, one workflow. And it's experience not just for our members, but for our employees.
Right.
Because we've got employees that have been around 20 years
Right.
working for us. So
And if they can have a better experience, then they have the time and the patience and everything else to
exactly.
experience it.
And then the time being a big thing, going
Yeah.
from like 20 minutes to maybe 5 minutes to takes to do one task. So it's been able and really working with, the employees that are here, they've been here for like 10, 12 years.
Yeah.
They are so bought into Loudoun Credit Union and what they stand. They've seen it in the changes. And you've got employees that have been there for that long. You feel kind of privileged to be around them because you're like, gosh, this is your baby in a sense. Like, you grew up with this company, and it's cool to be a person that gets to come in and help. Like, how do I take that a step further? How do I help you with this idea that you have? You want to see this work this way. How can we collaborate? How does operations meet marketing and sales? Because oftentimes you see that struggle, right? Where it's like the marketing, oh, here are the marketing people, they're going to create extra work,
Right.
but it's sort of creating that symbiotic relationship between the two. And I think that, and I love seeing that. It's exciting.
Yeah. Well, and you mentioned, sales and marketing. I think you and I could talk all day. I think what is such an important part of the process and something that's been fun to watch, as you've gotten acclimated and touched all of the different pieces of the organization. And as you mentioned, employees, members, all of the service providers, that it really starts with listening. So, what is your process and your philosophy on making sure that you're sort of gathering that information? Because to me, that's what sets you up to be able to be a problem solver instead of that like greasy salesperson.
Yeah. I think it's curiosity. It's asking questions. And you probably know this about me. I ask a gajillion
Mm.
questions. Well, how do we do this? Why do we do this? Can it be better? Do you want it to be better? What do you see if you had to choose? Like, I think one of the questions I asked early on was, if you had to dream up the most ideal situation, what would it be? And I think curiosity is key, right? Because listening involves you being curious.
Mhm.
Really, that active listening is really being curious. And also, being able to do that, but also keep your, I want to do this and I want to do this because, and I think we can all be that way. We want to go full speed ahead.
Right.
Sometimes we have to go full speed ahead and then kind of take a breath, stop ourselves and say, okay, well, did I listen? Does this meet the needs? Or
Right.
is this just me and I'm on my, like, I'm going to go full speed ahead and go do this? And I, it's important to kind of have both at the same time.
Right. Thinking ahead on what the pathway could be, but not assuming the answer.
Exactly. And
Yeah.
so it involves some strategy, some get it done now, but really that curiosity, I think, is key.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So one of the things that I know is in the works, for later this year, but really identifying that for nearly 50 years, membership has been about people and families
Mhm.
and, all of that good stuff, but that really members could also be businesses and nonprofits. So as you are, kind of mid process on all of that stuff right now, how do, because I know that, maybe as compared to banks, that there's kind of those two pathways there. What is that process like for a credit union that is really setting up memberships for organizations for the first time?
It's gosh, that's a loaded question. There's a lot to it, but I think one of the things, at least in our approach, has been what is the need? So we've started with a handful of businesses that are gonna, before we officially launch full business banking, are gonna be onboarded and, you know, kind of give us that real time feedback, that honest feedback of, this is what I need. I need to be able to do transfers. I need to be able to do wires. I need to be able to do payroll. And what does that look like? And it's hard because, I always think strategically, like, what's the long term goal? But you can't, you got to start with one step at a time.
Right.
Because in my eyes, you really get one chance to make a good impact. So it's deciding, like, yes, I want to have all of these things, but I got to start with this one thing. And it's even like when you educate a person on budgeting, it's the same thing. You might want the fancy house, you might want the fancy car, but where are we right now? And
Right.
what steps can we take to get there? So I think it's really about going back to that list and being
Mm.
curious, what do our business members need? And how can we scale that? Because we are a small but mighty credit union. And, you know, we might not onboard the biggest business to start with, but maybe we start with our small mom and pop places, the hole in the wall diner, the center, the jewelry maker, the, candle maker. How do we start with those people? And I like it because those are the people that live here. They work here. What do they need? And let's start with that and kind of scale that to, I'd love to see in a year or so from now that we're doing big lending for commercial banking. The sky's the limit. And it used to be that people didn't think of credit unions for commercial banking. You didn't think of that. You think of like the bigger banks. Now it's a little bit more mainstream. People are growing to expect that credit unions can have those kind of offerings. So,
Well, and I can tell you just from experience, and I know you've been a small business owner in the past as well, but being a small business owner and working with one of the large financial institutions, it's a slog, that it's hard to get the attention even of the people in the local office. And when you are calling, for support on something, maybe off hours or just for convenience's sake, you are starting from, zero each time. People have no idea who you are.
exactly.
And I think that the neighborly investment in your story is just not there because that they have a different model. And so
Yeah, they have shareholders.
that's right.
So they had to pay their bills. They had to pay their shareholders. And that's the thing is we're not here to nickel and dime you. We're
Mhm.
here to how can our product serve you? And that's really the credit union difference.
That's right.
We start with, in our business model, it's about the member. Now we still have to pay our bills, right? Give
That's right.
back to the community, do all of that. But at the same time, when I think about, and you think about this too, when you're a business owner, you're the person that has your family here, right?
That's right.
You own a house here, you pay your taxes, you have your kids in the school system, go support the local restaurants and the other
Mhm.
local people. That's really the fabric of our society. And getting to serve them, in my opinion, should be thought of as a privilege, that we approach it as, how can we best help you? How can we make this experience seamless?
Right.
Make it happy. Make this part of because you're a business owner, you're worried about a bunch of different things. You should not be concerned about fees and about, minimum balance requirements or, all that other stuff with your finances. How do we make this easy so you can continue to go out in the community and do what you want to do?
Amazing. One other thing I want to be sure to mention that I think is a really important part of the experience of the Loudoun Credit Union is that community support and the way that you guys integrate with nonprofits and school system and things like that. One of the things that I thought was very cool is recently you had a chance to be part of the Tools for Success, LCPS and Loudoun Education Foundation initiative there, which is literally, bringing the funding directly to career-ready students that are going to go into the trades, as well as, the Workforce Development Fund that LEF has. You guys have been key to that. How does that fit into the broader mission of the credit union, and what has that partnership with LEF and LCPS been like?
It gives me goosebumps when you talk about it because I think it is, when you get to see where your dollars go, and I think having kids in LCPS and knowing that the money that we do make, that it's going back into the community in a meaningful way to help students for like the tools for success. They're going to trade school. I mean, when we were in high school, we never thought of the trade school. It was always expected that you take the traditional path and go to college.
Right.
Not everybody is going to do that. And being able to set these students up for success. I mean, these are the students that are going to be the people taking care of us when we're old and gray, right? And
Or building your home, or fixing your home,
You know,
or
it brought back. So when we purchased our house last year, we had a plumbing issue. We actually went through our home warranty, but the student that showed up was a Tools for Success
no
scholarship
kidding.
winner from last year, maybe 2 years prior, and went into the trades, lived around the corner from
Amazing.
us. And it was like to see that come full circle and to know when you work for an organization where the dollars go to students. When I got to speak to the students, I said, I think maybe like I'm more excited than you are because I get to see this is where our money goes. This is our future. These are the kids that, they're gonna take care of this building.
Right.
They're going to be the person that our builder hires to come in and help us with the flooring. I mean,
Right.
this is, so there's that part. But then there's also just when you give back in a way, it's hard when you do community engagement. There's so many opportunities to
Of
give
course.
back, right?
Right.
There are a whole ton. But when you look at where we started, we started by LCPS and Loudoun
Mhm.
County government. We are giving back to the people who started us. And I think that sort of full circle moment is just, it makes it, and it gives you the warm and fuzzies, right?
It does.
Because you're seeing that money go back to where you started.
Absolutely. And now that, Loudoun Credit Union has had the community charter for 2 or 3 years, anyone who lives, works, worships,
Plays in Loudoun County.
that's right. Yeah. I mean, basically, if you touch Loudoun County, you're probably eligible.
Yeah.
But
That's exciting.
it is. But, if you look at the membership, especially the longstanding membership, that's exactly right. That's where it came from. That is still a very important part of, the credit union's future and all of that good stuff. So I think to be able to keep reinvesting in that relationship
And to
is
say
fun.
thank you.
Yeah.
Because when you work for a credit union, you start, how do we say thank you? How do we say thank you in a meaningful way? And I
Right.
think that, our board did a great job with that and making the decision, and our CEO, like, where's that money? It was cool to also see after the scholarship winners come up and say thank you. And you might think it's small, but it's a drop in a bucket, but it's big for them.
Yeah.
They're going to remember us.
That's right. These are a lot of folks that are ready to go into a job. They are pre-first paycheck.
Yeah. They're like, okay,
So-
we're ready to go. Let's
And
do
they
this
can't
thing.
get there unless they have the training or the tools to do it.
Exactly. So
That's
being able to
amazing.
offer that. And, LEF has been such a great partner for us and really being able to see what is it that we want to do, being able to turn that into something actionable.
That's exactly right. Yeah. Well, that sounds great. Well, thank you so much for sharing a bit about yourself and experience and kind of what, whether you are a longtime member who, knew us in Sickland Road and other places before that I think the experience is so elevated here and there's a real pathway for, new membership, new forms of membership and new forms of engagement. And the last thing, I just want to kind of bring it back around to this room for organizations that are looking to have an opportunity to use this space. What can they do to reach out?
Just reach out, just email,
Yeah.
call, email me, come in and ask. Actually, this morning we had another small business come in to check out the space. We're excited. We already have some dates on the calendar to have our local businesses come in and utilize the space. So just reach out.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, looking forward to it. And thank you for joining us. And we'll continue the conversations with
Yes.
members and staff and everybody else. But yeah, come on over and see us anytime at 6 West Market Street in downtown Leesburg. And for Loudoun Credit Union, Brian and Amanda signing off.
Bye.